What's going on, everybody? It is Milton Spence coming to you for another episode of the Well-Rounded Coach's Corner. I am happy to be here today because I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Muneeba Love Ravat. She hails from beautiful Australia. She's going to dive in a little bit more into who she is. But for now, I just wanted to touch on the fact that we're talking about queenship today. Before I get way too deep into that, I'm going to give the floor over to her. Muneeba, if you could, please let us know who you are, what you're all about, how you got to this point, and everything. The floor is yours.
Hey, everybody. My name is Muneeba Love Ravat. I am a qualified life coach. I am also a love poet. I have enormous passion in writing love poetry and talking about relationships and purpose in relationships. And the reason I became a life coach was because I wanted to be able to coach people into relationships that were meaningful based on, experiences that a lot of women that I know, including myself, have had. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, Milton, for having me. Very excited to talk about, queens and what queens can bring to the table in relationships. I feel like this is going to be a very good show. So let's do it.
Let's do it. So look, I don't know if we missed it. What's your social media pages? Like, how can we get in touch with you and things of that nature?
Yes, so basically on social media at the moment, I have a page called Coach Love on Facebook. You can reach me, I think the handle is Poetic Nini. So facebook.com/Poetic Nini. That is my Coach Love page. A lot of motivation on there. Sometimes I share videos of mine. A lot of it is aimed at women who are looking for motivation daily. I also have my personal Facebook, which is Muneeba Love. You can also catch me on there. I spend most of my time on there just because a lot of my family and friends are on there as well. I do have an Instagram. My Instagram is lady_Nini23. You can catch me on there as well.
All right. So look, let's dive into this thing, man. You ready to rock and roll? All right.
I am ready.
Good. Now, the way we even got to this was a beautiful app named TikTok that I've recently been on a lot, right? And of course,
Yep.
I'm on there. I'm being my silly self. I'm doing what I like to do because I'm always talking serious things, money, business, you name it, right? But I decided I'm gonna join TikTok and I'm gonna do my thing. And God honestly put an idea in my head that if I use TikTok, that platform, in order to expand my business for free, quote unquote. I mean, of course, it takes time, to do your little dances and takes and all of this kind of stuff.
Right.
But the fact is, that's the idea that God gave me. So as God gave me that idea, here I am. And I think I saw a video of yours on there. You were talking about love and relationships. Right. And I added you, I followed you, quote unquote. And then I hit you up in your inbox and I was just asking, I was like prompted to ask you about that. And so as we got to this point, I'm just excited because I truly believe this is what you're meant to do. And as we have talked about off camera, this is a great stance where we both are at, where we both know for a fact that God aligned us. Now imagine you're on a total different side of the country, and let's just keep it 1,000. Right now it is 7:35 in the morning where I am, hence it is 9:35 p.m. where she is. So as I get my day going, her day is then ending, and then as my day is ending, hers is beginning. So this is the beauty of what we get to do. This is the beauty of how we connect if we are just following those internal prompts. That's enough for me. But so let's dive into the factor of queenship. Okay, so first question, loaded question. What is queenship to you? And what does it mean? And how can our queens get their crown back?
Look, I think, and it's a very personal journey for me. So I feel like a lot of women could probably relate. Queenship is not necessarily, being in a position where you're talking about being independent and I can do everything on my own and, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it all. This is the millennium. This is what happens in the millennium. We have people calling themselves queens, but they don't realize that in a castle, there is a king, there is a queen, and there is everything else. And you need both in order to actually thrive and survive, right? So for me, if I look at it from a personal perspective, and I think a lot of women, especially old school women, will relate to this. How do you sit there and redeem your crown and call yourself a queen? You have to understand that you need to make a purposeful effort to stand up for what you believe in, stand up for your values as a woman, your morals as a woman, so that the energy that you attract is authentic, right? Obviously, I don't mean that in an arrogant manner. Like I said, I can do everything that a man can do. This is what I bring to the table because this is what women are doing. And sometimes I sit back and I'm like, is that a queen or are you trying to be a king? Like what? Like I can't tell at this point. So for me, it's very much, you have to come from a woman, a woman's perspective in every aspect that you are dealing with in your life. You have to look at yourself and go, well, literally, if I come from a natural, innate perspective when dealing with men, with dealing with anybody that I'm surrounded by, they're going to look at me, I'm a woman. So let me gracefully project the energy that's going to attract the right attention. Let me stand up for my values in a graceful manner. Let me say, this is what I'm about as a woman. This is what I bring to the table as a woman. I'm not trying to take your position as a man. And if we allow ourselves to do that as women, I feel like we will attract the correct energy. And this is what, for me, this is what a queen is about. For me, a queen is, it took me a long time to actually say, you know what, I'm a queen. And I'm going to stand up for my values and my standards. And you know what, sometimes it gets lonely. And I think that's another thing. That's where we go wrong, right? We go, I'm a queen. But then we get lazy and we get comfortable. We're in the millennium right now, and men are looking for a certain type of energy maybe these days. I don't know. Maybe they're settling as well. Maybe kings are settling, right? So we feel like, you know what, it's too hard to uphold these values. Let me settle. And we delve back into, as long as I'm getting that attention, because I cannot be patient and lonely, I'm going to settle and I'm going to forget my values. And this is where, for me personally, I've been there. I've been in a position where I thought I knew what being a queen was. I thought I knew. I talked about being a queen. I talked about my values, but I was not strong enough to uphold them, right? I was not strong enough to say, you know what, I'm going to let you go because you don't respect my values, and I'm going to wait. So I had to come back to myself and say, well, you know what, that is not what a queen is, because a queen generally should be able to uphold her values and uphold her standards, whether she's lonely or not. Whether she is lonely or not. And I think that that's what being a queen now, in how many years of my life have I lived with many different kinds of experiences, I feel like I can finally understand what being a queen is. Now I've got a young daughter who is 18 years old. What am I teaching her? What am I teaching her about being a queen? So if I have to break every time society tells me you're getting old, you need to get married, and I lower my standards, just because we need to be married culturally or whatever the case may be. What am I teaching my child, right? So I feel like being a queen is really, you have to be strong but graceful in your morals and your values, and you have to stick to them, because in a society that we live in like today, it is not easy to be a queen and hold those values. It is not easy. We succumb to all sorts of kind of pressure. Society tells us you're getting old. Culture tells us you need to be married. I mean, you're almost 40 and you're not married yet. So we find a guy, and he's, the same cultural background as yourself, and we think that that's what we want, right? Because they know what kind of background we come from, and they are able to relate, but they don't respect the values that we have. They don't want to match that. They don't want to lead us in the right direction. So, for me personally, and I think a lot of women out there could probably relate, the women that I've spoken to anyway, being a queen is not about how much you can talk about it. It's really stopping yourself from settling for the kind of energy that eventually you're going to have to get rid of in your life.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my take. There's so many other, avenues I can come in with that, but for me, based on my life experience, I think that's what a queen is to me. Being able to stand your ground gracefully without trying to take a king's position from him, and allowing him to lead you, because you've basically, put yourself out there gracefully about the standards that you hold for your life. That's my personal intake on being a queen.
All right. So normally when we talk about, being a queen and a king and all of those things, it's a pretty loaded thing. It's pretty heavy. So I understand why it's kind of hard to target a certain response to that question. The most important parts that I heard you speak were understanding that role, understanding that as a queen, you also need a king. But it's not just any king.
Right.
This has to be the right king. There's been many queens who've had a horrible husband, a horrible king who's a horrible leader, and he's a horrible, horrible, horrible person. And in those situations, normally, they were not able to just leave. Divorce was not necessarily a thing, right? But it is a thing these days. It is a way to walk away from gentlemen these days. And there's a certain freedom to it, but it's also a sort of recklessness to it. I think it has to be seen as a form of understanding that if this gentleman is not reaching the level for which you hold yourself, then he must not be the one for you, right? But my question is, and this is a question to you, how do you as a woman know that your standards or the level of your standards are not just correct, but they are in fact realistic?
Interesting question. Look, I feel like everybody's personal experience is different, right? If I have to look at myself, in my past relationships, I knew for a fact that my standards were okay, but I was settling. Now, when you settle, automatically the things that you expect for yourself are not realistic because you're settling. Okay? When you align yourself with somebody who understands the depth of the values and the standards that you have for your life as a queen, it's effortless. It's completely effortless. You don't sit there worrying, but what if I say the wrong thing? But what if I do the wrong thing? What if... It's effortless. So for me, how did I even recognize that my standards were unrealistic? in some situations, my standards will probably be realistic to a person who was on par with the values that I had for my life. They would be realistic. When I was dealing with somebody whose energy was not at the level that mine was, it looked unrealistic to the other person, because they would never be able to see where I was coming from. Right. So, I mean, that question in itself could go in two different ways. You know, I think if I have to look at my own experiences, I've known what my values and my standards were from very young, because that's what my mama taught me, right? She taught me from very young. But I was not confident enough to stand up and say, hey, this is what it is. Like, you need to step up or step out.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, the standards never changed. And if I wasn't being unrealistic, I was just going to the wrong type of person with those standards, all for a lot of my life. I mean, I've probably lost out on good opportunities because I friend zoned the people that, you know, I friend zoned people that could have held those standards quite high. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. Right. And I mean, but there are women who do have standards that are unrealistic. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've spoken to women who are like, well, no. And I'm just like, you listen, it's okay to have them good values, but you also have to remember that you're not a king. You're not innately built to lead a home. I get it. We're all independent. I get it. I can hold my own. I get it. That's not the point. So there are women out there who are a little bit unrealistic about what they expect from a man, you know, and I feel like, or the standards that they hold for themselves in order to get the right man, they got to come down a notch. You know, I was never that woman. I was never that woman that was like, well, I need this and I need that. I've never been that. So I can't tell you that some of my standards were unrealistic, because my standards have always been the same.
And that's based upon what? Your standards, what are they based upon?
Look, it's based upon how my mother raised me. You know, how my mother raised me. My mother, if I look at she's a queen. My mother is a queen. Hey, my mom, hey Ma, she's going to be watching this, by the way. She's going to be watching this. But if I have to look at my mother and the way she raised my sister and I, it is, I mean, I went the other way. My sister is the most amazing human being. She's docile, just like my mother. I'm a little bit more vocal, probably like my dad, right? So my mother always maybe thought that I was never going to, you know, grasp those values. But the reality of it is, it's been innate since day one, because that's just who she is. So whenever I went into things like if I go into a relationship, whether you're a good man or not, time tells everything. I'm the same person from the beginning, because of the values that I've upheld for that long. So sometimes you attract the wrong kind of person. You may not be the wrong kind of person, but you attract the wrong kind of person, because people look at those soft qualities that you have. Sometimes they look at women that come at it from a different perspective. Like, I'm not this, I'm independent, I don't need a man, blah, blah, blah. I don't come off like that, because I don't believe that that's how a home should be built. I don't believe there should be any kind of competition in a home, right? So sometimes that attracts the wrong kind of male. And my values come from that. And I feel like they're probably never going to change. They're always going to be like that. The problem is now you have to raise those standards so that people know that they can't come in with the incorrect energy, because you're a queen, and you have to up your level of confidence with those values. And I think that that's a lot of the times too. There are women out there who are so amazing. They're so amazing, and they've got the values, they've got the standards, but it's not necessarily about what they have. It's about, at what point do you stand up for yourself and say, hey, I'm a queen, gracefully, I'm a queen. You need to rise up and meet me at the level that I'm at, you know?
Right. So
yeah.
with some gentlemen, one of the things that we do is when we come to a woman and they're talking this queen and queen this, I'm queen that, queen B, blah, 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 we automatically have a level of reservation, right? And the reason being is because right now, the way society is built, the way things are happening is we're just not going for it. Because we're starting to feel as if every female that we come in contact with, she would just rather be single. It's like, why are we even talking if you're talking as if you're single? Why would we even get married to you if before we get married you're already talking as if you're single? Why would we take you out as if you know you need our money? You don't need us. You know, we're not needed. And I think what happens is queenship also has to come with a level of grace. It also has to come with a level of understanding that you are not the top dog. Neither is the man. Reason being is because of the fact that man has a mantle to uphold as a man, and that's it. He is not to step into any other role or to do any other thing except for do what he's supposed to do to the best of his ability and to give it 100% of what he has, right? The tools that you were given as a man innately, it helps you. Now, a lot of things sharpen you as you go on. Iron sharpens iron. But some things can also dull your sword. So it's up to you as a man to understand who you are, where you are in this society, not just America, obviously, but in this world, this community of human beings, who and what you are, what that means, because manhood, as in culturally, is totally different in many different respects. So I've always said, go to the basics of you as a guy. What are the things that you naturally like or dislike when it comes from yourself, and then when it comes from a lady? And that is how you can establish that relationship, because first you're looking at what do you like and dislike that comes from you, and then you can say, well, I can see now why this lady is quote unquote my equal, because the very things that you may dislike coming from you, that bravado, that rough stuff, how you don't necessarily know how to be soft in certain situations, she carries innately. So that is your equal. So you can't try to then go on and be soft and try to be all of these things, because it may work for a little bit. You may pass off as a king for a second and, oh man, he's so great. But eventually you'll be found out. Eventually it'll come to a head and they'll say, well, wait a minute, that's not who he is. Because every male does that. They get into a relationship or they get with a lady, and they are everything that they think this woman wants them to be. Now, personally, when I was dating, when I came to a lady, I came to her as I am. If you don't like me, you just don't like me. If you like me, then you like me, right? That's easier said than done. Reason being is because of the fact you have something that gets in the way every time. It's called those emotions. And they make you want to do things and sway left and sway right. And, oh, wait, I got my crown on, but, you know, I'll take it off for now, you know, just to kind of appease.
I'll relax a little bit.
Yeah, I'll appease a little bit.
This side of the fence too.
Yeah.
More so, I think, than with men. It happens with women too much.
Okay, so dive into that. Go ahead, because you look, I can see the passion. Go.
Yeah, look, I've been there. I mean, for me personally, and I'm sure every woman can say this, it's like, well, you know, he's so sweet. Maybe I should give him a little bit of leeway. You know, oh, maybe I should just be a little patient. And a lot of women are patient till the point where they're wasting their time, because that's where we have to build the strength gracefully. And I keep saying this because I don't mean build, because I've seen some women who the strength is not coming from a very gracious, nurturing place. We need to be able to build our strength gracefully. At that point between, let me give him a little bit of leeway to I'm wasting my time. At some point, we have to learn to cut the cord and say, right, I've given you some time. Now, as a man, what are you going to do? And
Well, I think responsibility is a huge part to what we're talking about right now. And I think what happens is there is a sense that as a woman, you have to train a man. Most men in circles that we speak,
I'm listening.
in circles that we speak, one of the first things we say, or that we will laugh at, right? And we'll say, I guess she thinks she's training me or teaching me something. And we'll say, okay, it's kind of like in those situations where you'll hear ladies say, oh, you got to let a man be a man, but you got to train him and show him how to be with you, quote unquote, right? So in reverse, what we'll say is, well, look, we'll play that game because essentially now we've placed you into a bracket that says, okay, you don't value my manhood. You value what you want versus me.
Out of my manhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're placing me in a box, number one. And this is how you want me to be with you. I'll play that game with you just as long as I continue to get what every man kind of wants, that treasure box, right? The magical treasure box. And he says,
Right.
as long as I get that, I'll play every game you want me to play, because men are very good at that. You give me a play to run as a man, I run the play. I might not want to. Coach calls a play, I might disagree with it, but I'll run it. I'll do it. Because what? I want to stay on the field. I want to keep playing. I like this field. I like this team. But the moment
easy.
But the moment he gets tired, that's when he becomes a dog to a woman.
Right.
But sometimes she doesn't see that she's the one who did that or put him in that box. Now, a man on the other side of things, a man, it is your opportunity and your ability to go to this lady and tell her, look, I understand that's what you want, but get to know me first. Get to understand who I am. Instead of thinking that you have to train me to be that way, understand that I may have that quality. You just haven't gotten that deep yet. So give me the opportunity to build a relationship with you first before you just get into the factor of thinking that you're training me or thinking that you're putting me in some kind of girl, I told him type of thing. I don't care about that, because if we're going to talk about queenship, we also have to understand, as you said, there's a balance to everything.
Right. That's exactly right.
Right. So there's no queen who is going to stand above and look down from her ivory tower.
That's how they feel, though. In the year 2000, that's how they feel. Like, I am okay to overpower you. I'm okay to stand above. Like, I don't know where this came from. I don't know where these kind of values came from, Milton. We were not raised like that. We were raised to be powerful women, with or without men, yes, but gracefully.
Well, I think what happens is that there's an impatience to it. There's a lack of understanding or knowledge or intelligence about who and what we are, because you have so many people telling you what to be versus you doing the deep dive work and understanding who exactly you are. I am not going to connect with people who I don't connect with, regardless of the fact if it's male or female. I can't do it, so I'm not going to do it, and it's okay. There's an earth out here, right? There's an earth that we all live in, and I think what happens is we only start to section ourselves off to where we are versus where we could go. We don't see ourselves as somebody who is actually impactful to the earth. We're seeing somebody who's basically impacted.
Right.
It's a different. So as a man or as a woman, in order to have a solid relationship, you have to understand your impact versus just what you're going to receive out of the relationship. Like, what is he going to do? I'm a queen, so now come do this for me. No, you still have things to do. It's kind of like,
It
yeah.
just doesn't work that way. Look, I mean, I'm so sick of hearing this. I'm a queen. I'm so sick of hearing it. Like, it is one of those, it's like y'all are now just talking because it sounds good. Like, at the end of the day, it sounds good, but what inner work are you doing? And that's, I feel like, being very old school with a lot of things. That's where women are just, you know what? It's like a trend. It's like a new pair of jeans. Everybody's got a new pair of jeans. So guess what? I'm going to buy the jeans. I'm going to put them on. And I'm going to be like, guess what? Jeans are, no. I'm a queen. I'm a queen. But what are you doing? What's the work? What work are you putting into that title? Like, you know, people are using that word queen and they're taking it so lightly for me. Like, sometimes I'm like, but do you know that the word queen in itself comes from within the castle, right? We didn't just have a queen. I mean, we had a queen and we had a king. We had a prince and we had a princess. I mean, we had it all in the castle. We didn't just have a queen. So it's like women are using this title like it's some kind of like, you better treat me this way because I'm a queen. But what are you doing to earn the title? What are you doing to show that you deserve to be on that kind of pedestal? Because for me personally, when I look at it in terms of relationships, in terms of holding our value, we say we want a man who's a king. We want a man who can lead us in the right direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you giving him? What are you giving him to make him feel like you are worthy of being led in the right direction? Now, sometimes you can give him everything that you are worthy. You know, you are worthy of everything. He may not have the qualities that you desire or that you need for your life in order for you to be led in the right direction. So, you know, again, both sides of the fence. I mean, you talked about kings last week, right? I watched the video about men who devalue themselves. Don't devalue yourself. You are worth more than that. There is a certain level of, you know, the man has to come correct as well. But in terms of the queen, I mean, people are throwing that word around like it's, you know, and I'm just like, well, great. But like, what makes you think you deserve to be led? You know, what are you standing up for?
Well,
and I think that's where the problem.
Right. So desirability is of being led is something I believe some people have that stance, and that's because they don't understand the abilities that they hold within. They don't understand exactly who and what they are. You know, so for me, I'm always letting ladies know it's not even a deserving thing. It is a thing that you have to understand in order to be able to submit to anything or to any man or to anything, period. You first have to even submit to yourself. You have to submit to God if you believe in God. You have to submit to things before you even get to that man. That man also has to do the same exact things. He has to be able to embrace the fact that, sure, you're given a position as a leader. You're not naturally that. You're given that, but it's a privilege to have it, because that woman who you married is somebody else's daughter. That woman who you're with is somebody else's seed. So it's a privilege that you have to even be able to be in that position to have this woman and now take her from her home. So, you know, so forth. Take her from her family.
Right.
And be able to have her and say, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to look out for you. I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that you are not just good, but we are good. Okay. I'm going to do all these things to make sure that we are good. Now, on the other hand, that lady is then like, I'm going to do the very same thing. Okay. It is a submission from both that makes it queen and queen. Naturally
that happens.
Right. But the thing the thing is, there's this notion that, well, you must meet this in order for me to do this. Then we can do this. No, no. In order for us to reach that together, we have to do it like that. We have to put ourselves together, and then we can reach the pinnacle. I can't climb a mountain. I can climb it by myself, sure. But man, is it easier if I have a partner along with me? Somebody who's understanding that along this mountain, we might have to find a little inner dwelling, stop for a second, I need to rest, and as we're climbing the mountain, understand I'm carrying you on my back as a man. I'm going to carry you on my back, and on your back, you're going to carry the children. So I'm keeping it together for everybody. I'm climbing the mountain, I'm climbing. But when I get tired, please don't slap me in the back of the head and say, keep climbing, we're almost there. I'm tired.
Right.
Give me a second to rest. We'll go into this inner dwelling. I found us a safe place. I went in, I cleared it out. No snakes, no mountain lions, no nothing. We're in there. And guess who also has the food? The lady. So now you provide the food for me to re-nourish my body. And guess what happens? The entire time I'm climbing the mountain, all you're doing is riding my back. I'm not trying to say that's not an assistance or a help, but I'm letting you know I'm strong enough to do this. I got it, but I need rest. So understand that once we reach the top of this mountain together as a unit, I'm not going to look back at you and yell at you because all you did was ride my back. We're going to celebrate this moment together, because what you did for me was you provided me food to be able to continue to do this. And that man, I'm speaking,
That's so deep.
yeah.
We're talking about leadership and submission now, right? We're talking about leadership and submission. And a lot of women, when they hear the word submission, that is a whole different conversation, Milton. That leadership and submission is a whole nother 2 hours, because what you're talking about right there is ebb and flow in relationships.
Right.
We're talking about leadership and submission in the most natural, innate, most beautiful way. This is what God created us to do. You provide the house, I make the home. That it's innate. No matter how much you think you are an independent woman, I don't need this, I don't need that. God built that within you, and that will naturally happen to you when you have a man that is taking you in a direction that you should innately be going.
Sure. Now, in order for me to,
wow.
Well, in order for me to take my queen anywhere, I would need her to understand that I am not trying to show off and show that I'm a king, and I'm not trying to show off and tell you you're not a queen. I'm helping you understand that it is my duty. It is my ability to be my best self as a man and to do everything in my power to make sure that as my queen, your mantle is also upheld. It's the same as mine. It doesn't mean that you're not going to do anything. What that means is, as I'm working for you, you're also working for me. It takes skill. It's a craftiness to it. It is a love to it that comes with the fact of understanding that you're willing to put me before you, and I'm willing to put you before me. I'm never going to lose myself if you're also giving me back what I'm putting out.
Yeah.
If it's reciprocity between the two, I'm never going to lose myself. So queenship also is a factor of understanding that as a queen, it is that much more beautiful, and your mantle is that much more higher if you have your equal with you.
Right.
This is why I wanted to have the conversation, because I'm understanding even more now that it takes two, not one. It takes two to uphold a mantle of king and kingship and queenship. It takes two. So let me ask you this. I know I'm going deep.
Oh, let's hear it. I'm ready.
Yeah. So let me ask you, how, as a woman who wants to now, because this is what I believe, okay? I believe that the crown is there already. And it's up to you to build it, put jewels in it and things of that nature until it's time for you to now wear your crown. As a woman, what are the things that you need to do or make sure you do internally to make sure that you're fit or ready to wear your crown? Not your tiara, but your crown.
Look, and I can only speak on things that I've personally experienced. I feel as though, the way I was able to come to a point in my life where I would recognize my value and I would recognize really what I needed for my life without backing down from that, was to take time out for myself. So what I mean by that is, you need to be able to sit with yourself. You don't need to sit with another man after that bad relationship. Go sit with another man and find out what you need. Maybe you can find it in him, which we've all done it. We've moved from one relationship to another thinking, well, I didn't find it there, I might find it there. The way that I came about how I was going to be able to stand up for my standards, my values, put the jewels on my crown, I sat with myself and I evaluated the patterns of behavior, right? And this is a very important thing. What patterns of behavior have I displayed in the past that have allowed me to go down the wrong path? What patterns of behavior? And if I can see the same pattern of behavior in every single experience that I've had, guess what? I might need to revisit that pattern of behavior. Now, you can do the same thing for 10 years and nothing changes. Because why? You're doing it wrong. You might do it differently for 1 year and your whole life could change. And that's exactly what happened to me. When I chose not to settle, I started attracting the correct energy. The moment I went back into settling because I got lazy, or I was under societal pressure or cultural pressure, guess what happened? I failed again.
Right.
I failed again. Why? Because I allowed myself to settle again.
Yeah.
Coming out of that again, sometimes we need to be hit in the head a couple of times, right? Coming out of that again, completely owning my values, completely owning my standards and being proud of those standards that I have, because guess what? They're not bad.
Right.
I start attracting the correct energy. I start attracting the people in my life that are looking for the same thing.
Sure.
And I'm eliminating everybody that is not on alignment or in alignment with who I am.
Sure.
So in order to gain that crown, or put the jewels in the crown, or however you want to put that analogy, you have to be able to sit with yourself and be really honest. Be really honest with yourself. Like, I've been doing the same thing for 10 years. It's not working. I mean, some people are doing the same thing for 10 years and they're still single. Well, I mean, maybe you need to change the game a little bit. Like, it's just, you have to be able to address your inner. You have to be able to look at yourself and say, be real with yourself. Like, nobody wants to be wrong, right? Nobody wants to be wrong. But sometimes you are wrong. And as women, it's happening more and more. I feel like I'm watching women do the same thing they've been doing 10 years ago and still say they're right.
That's right.
Listen, I was able to look at myself and say, Nini, you're doing it all wrong. Because guess what? You may have the good values. You may know how to be a good wife. You may know how to be, uphold your home. But are you able to stand up for yourself and say, this is who I am? So you have to, how do you get there? You need to be honest with yourself. It's okay to be wrong. Yeah. It's okay to say, I'm not living up to my own standards that I want. Yeah. So how can I expect somebody else to give me that first? Give yourself that, and I 100% guarantee you will begin to have those very people that are like-minded come into your life effortlessly.
Yes. That inner work is extremely important. Everything that you said is extremely important. Extremely. So ladies, one of the big things that if you didn't take anything from that, take this. Get down deep with yourself. Do not worry about us men out here. We are here. Promise you we are here. We are after you innately without even trying. But if you don't do your work, if you don't do what you have to do inside, you will take on men who will stop you, will stifle you, will hurt you, we will harm you. I'm saying I'm putting myself in there, because if I am not ready, I can hit on you all day, and I could ask you for your phone number all day, and you could give it to me. But the moment I step into your life with my spirit, because you're a spiritual being having a physical experience, right? The moment I step into my life and bring everything I have with me, I can look good on the outside, have a pretty smile, nice eyes. I can have all of those things. But the moment my spirit comes into your life and my spirit is not aligned with yours, I'm causing havoc. I may not try to, but I'm causing havoc. And what happens is we keep aligning ourselves with people spiritually who have not done the work, who have not gotten in touch with themselves to understand there's a beautiful side to you, there's an ugly side to you. You have to look at both of them in the face, deal with what you got to deal with, face with what you got to face, because at the end of the day, what's going to end up happening is if you take the time to deal with the ugly sides of yourself, you will live in so much more victory, to the point when you gain that crown, and when you put that crown on, sure, it may be heavy, but it's heavy with stones of work that you have done, something you can be proud of, and your neck will be strong enough to uphold what you have done, because it is what you have done. You didn't build it on the back of anybody else. You built it on the back of your own sweat equity, your own hard work, your own long nights, your own emotional turmoil, everything that you've done it. You've gotten in tune, and you've gotten in touch, and you do everything you can to stay there. So when I come into your life, if my spirit is not right, you'll say, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't align with me. Hey, it was very nice to meet you. Yeah, it was very nice to meet you, sir. But I can't do this. Reason being is because, and you can tell the gentleman whatever you want to tell him, but the fact is, you don't align, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's perfectly okay. Yeah. And I think that women, that's with us women, we base everything on emotion. So if we feel like, oh my God, but I really like him, we're not aligning. We get really emotional about it. And I think I'm a very emotional being, right? But I've learned slowly but surely that it's okay. It's all right. You know why? Because if this person was supposed to be aligned with you, everything would be like ebb and flow, right? Ebb and flow. Everything would just happen like it was supposed to happen. It was effortless. So that's another thing women just need to come to terms with, including myself. We all have difficulty doing that because women are innately emotional. Hey, we're not aligned. We're not aligned because guess what, Queen? Your values are up here. Somehow his values are a little bit different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
He's not there yet, or whatever. It could be the other way around. You might not be there yet, and he's there, but you're,
Right.
you know what I mean? It could go both ways. We have to be okay with that kind of conversation.
Right. So
well.
let's go back to this example from what you just said. I want to give something on that. Okay. So, you know, I talked about climbing that mountain, and I talked about that woman being on that man's back, and on that woman's back was the children, right? Or the child or whatever. So imagine this. That same man is climbing that same mountain, but this time he has a rope around him, right? And the woman is dangling below him. It is harder to climb that mountain with the rope dangling down, because what you're doing now is you're saying, okay, well, throw me a rope. I'm going to tie it around my waist, and I'm going to try to carry you to the place that I am. Meaning, I am going to reach the top of the mountain before you, number one.
Yep.
Then I'm going to have to pull you to the top, number two. It's going to be harder for me to stop into an inner dwelling, number three. And as I'm pulling you, this rope has the potential to break. So I'm trying to carry you and my child up to this mountain. Ugh. It's toiling work. That is why it is perfectly okay to understand that if you're not able to climb on this man's back, ladies, cut him off, because he is putting yourself in a bad position. You're putting yourself in a horrible position to be swinging on a mountain. Because imagine what you are at that point, and this is deeper. What you are at that point as you're swinging on that mountain. Remember, there's dangers on the mountain. If you're swinging and you're the first line of attack, not the man, you're vulnerable to something harming you along that very mountain. Okay? As you're swinging on the mountain, and I know some women, their minds are going to go to, well, wait a minute, why do I have to swing? I could grab onto the mountain myself. Well, lady, I'm telling you, as you're carrying the child on your back, eventually you're going to have to bring that child to the front, because the child is going to need nourishment before the man will. The child is going to need attention because the child is just dangling. They don't know what's going on. They're going to need you. So you have a dual responsibility. You have a responsibility too. That's one thing I didn't touch on because I didn't want to get too deep. I was letting the lady know, look, as the man is carrying the family, you're on the back. You don't forget you have a responsibility or responsibilities on your back as well. So it's not that you guys cannot do it together. It's just that you have to know the responsibilities. And I think this whole notion that, well, this is not old school, women can work too. Never said that. Of course you have a job to do. Every woman has a job to do. Every man has a job to do. It's not about money. Okay? Money is money in a marriage. The government doesn't care where the money comes from. They could care less. They see your household makes this amount of money. They don't care who it came from. They say your household. When you file your taxes, you can file them married and single if you want to. They still look at it as joint income. You're just filing married but single, or individual, whatever, to be put in different tax brackets. They get it. They get the game, right? They get the gamut. But they're like, shoot, if you're gonna pay us taxes twice, what's up? We'll do it. Cool. But the fact is, if you get caught up on the money side of things, you'll forever lose the fact that you're climbing a mountain together. And the mountain that you're climbing is the mountain to purpose. It is the mountain to who and what you're meant to be. That is what's most important. Not how you look, are my TikToks fire? How many likes can I get? Can we, hey babe, let's take a selfie because we look good. That stuff doesn't matter.
We live in a society now that's driven by money and materialism, right? At the end of the day, what is the point of having all of that if you cannot be innately and eternally happy with yourself and with the woman or the man that you are you know, having a family with, or having a home with. Like, what is the point? You know, and I feel like a lot of women, I mean, I people don't like it when I say it, but people are materialistic these days. People are vain these days, right? We're trying to keep up.
With the Joneses.
With what? You mean the Kardashians these days? It's not the Joneses anymore. Things have changed, right?
True.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like, and this is half the time, queens. Is that what a queen is? What?
To be
Trying to make
clear.
my lips look like. I mean, look. Let's be real, right?
Yeah.
We have settled as women because sometimes societal pressure makes us feel like we are moving too slow, because people are not coming up and meeting us where our values are and our standards are. So sometimes it's not necessarily that we don't have the queen within us, it's because sometimes shit just gets really hard. Like,
Yeah.
you know, society is pressure, culture is pressure. Like, there are so many different factors, and I feel like if we have to push to stand up for what we love and what we desire, what we want for ourselves, our values, our morals. And eventually somebody, it's lonely sometimes, you know, you lay in bed at night, it's lonely.
Sure.
When you have standards, lonely.
Sure.
Sometimes.
But it's rewarding. Extremely.
But it's rewarding. It is rewarding in the end.
Yep.
And I think that's for women, because we are emotionally charged. We look for that nurturing ability in some way or the other. We need to look after something. We look for it, right? It gets lonely. So we settle. But we just need to be patient.
That's right.
We need to be patient.
All right. So last thing, and then we're gonna. I love this. This last thing here. When it comes down to being with a man, you're with this man. Okay. How do you, as a queen, let's just say you guys are married now, together, in it to win it. You know your inner values, you know your inner workings, because this can happen. You know who you are, you've done the work, all of this stuff. Still can make mistakes, still choose the wrong person, right? But you're married now, and your values say what? No divorce, because that's cultural, that's religion, that's all of that, right? So how do you then help this man, as a queen, see that he also has a crown? How do you do that work? Because remember, to climb that mountain, he's got the power, he's got the strength. You need him to climb that mountain. How do you do that? How do you bring that out of that man?
Look,
I'm going to really turn off my mic now and I'm going to just let you go for it.
Oh,
Congratulations.
That is a difficult question, Milton.
Come on, you got it. I believe in you. If nobody else can do it, you can do it. Come on now.
That is a difficult question, because, okay, this man has to be receptive to this kind of help.
Sure, but how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? Come on, give it to me. Come on now.
I have been in a situation where I've tried to do everything in my power everything in my power to help. Nothing worked. Okay, so I always believe, because we've all been in a situation where people have tried to help us and we weren't looking for it, we have to be able to help ourselves. But as a woman, how do you help a man if he might not be able to recognize his value? He might not have the confidence to recognize what kind of value he brings to the table. Encouragement. If you see this man has some kind of purpose, but he's not realizing it for himself, push him to understand his value. Now, I'm not saying every man is going to be able to recognize what you're doing, because a lot of men sometimes take advantage of that, okay? I've been in those situations. What I am saying is, though, as a woman, you can only do innately what you are born to do, and that is encouragement, love, nurture, because these are all the things that we have natural abilities to do. Teamwork makes the dream work. I've always been the kind of woman that, I mean, if my man's got a dream or a purpose, I want to push that purpose. I want to be able to be on board with that purpose so you can see, listen, because sometimes you just need somebody to say, hey, I believe in you. Like, you don't need much. You need one person. So for me, as a woman, if I was in that position and it was reciprocal, the person was taking it on board, it would work. It's encouragement, it's nurture, it's let me take care of this so that you can take care of this. You know, don't put too much pressure on having everything done by them, because again, if you're a leader, naturally you're going to say, well, I'm going to let her handle this, and it's going to push me to handle this naturally. Like, it's, you know, if the male is receptive, that's going to work.
Sure.
As a woman, you cannot, no matter how much we try and do the work for the man, we will never succeed. I mean, listen, I'm like, you too lazy to do it, I'll do it. It doesn't make him want to do it more.
No, it doesn't.
It will make him want to do it more. It's like, well, I mean, she's going to do it, so I'm just going to sit back and let her do
chill
it.
out. Yeah.
No, we have to be able to take a step back and just, hey, encourage you, nurture, do what we need to do over here, and let you take the reins. And if the man does not take the reins, well, then this cannot be a healthy marriage for you. It cannot be a healthy marriage if you've done everything on your part and the other person is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? That's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
You know? I come from a family where divorce is like a big deal.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been divorced. I mean, you know, circumstantially, you know, things were out of the norm, but I've been there, and I fought till the, like, I couldn't fight anymore. Okay, now I had to move on and give up. But if you have a partner that is willing to do the work themselves, everything that you do to encourage them is going to work, right? But again, It comes back to doing the inner work. Men and women both alike. We have to do the inner work. We can't expect other people to do things for us. Nobody owes us anything.
That's true.
You know, you can have a marriage. You got to be the woman that encourages him to push him to his best self. Great. But is he receptive? Is he willing?
Okay. So final thought, right? For me, final thought. Then I'll let you give your final thought, and then we're gonna wave bye to mama and all the cousins in South Africa and Australia and everything. So final thought, you know, my sisters, my brothers, you know, for you, in order to have a successful, I hate to use that word. I really hate using successful relationship. I feel like that's overused now. In order for you to have an actual union, a bond, it takes time to grow it with yourself first. Have a relationship with yourself. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Hey, be straightforward with yourself. Be raw with yourself. Know when you're full of it. Okay? Know when you're not. Give yourself the opportunity to have the best things in this life. That way, when you meet another person, you're also giving them the opportunity to be the best for you in this life. You're not holding them back. Don't hold people back. Allow people to show you who they are, right? If it doesn't ebb and flow with you, right, move on. There's many people on this earth. If it's something that you believe that you're meant to do with this person, here's another thing. Queens, Do not take on men who are still of a prince mentality. That means they're young of mind. They're not ready for that mantle yet. They have to be groomed. A prince is groomed into being a king. He doesn't just step into it. Okay? Don't take on that man. Tell him, say, look, sir, it's all good, but we're going to have to move on. I'm here. I'm a queen already. I'm ready to take on the mantle. I'm ready to have a king by my side. I do not want a little boy.
Right.
Right? Now, that doesn't mean he got to have money. He got to, It's here. If he doesn't have it here, the money will never come. It will never flow. Or he might have money and he still doesn't have it here. And so the money means nothing at that point. Okay? So, for you to have your crown and be able to wear it, and for your neck to be strong, you really have to do the work internally. You really have to connect with people who connect with you. And if they don't, move them. Last thing I'm going to say, then I'm going to shut up and you give your final thought. My queens out here, understand. So then we didn't talk about it. I get it. We talked to men and women. My queens, your friendships also need to align with your queendom, because they will influence you either in the way of excelling, propelling, right? Or they will stifle you, the same as your relationship with said man. So be careful who you will let in your kingdom. Be careful who you let get close to you, and be careful who you allow to sit close to the throne. That's why for me and mine, I have a select group of friends and I follow God. Simple and plain. I keep it simple because that's what I trust and that's what I know. And I know for a fact that if I follow God, He won't put or allow anybody in my life that is not supposed to be in my life. He will help me discern those people and move in ebb and flow with Him to make sure that I'm always aligned to the purpose, what's meant for me, why I was sent down to this earth in the first place. I'm going to leave it at that. And you give your final thought, and then we'll wave and say peace, love, and chicken grease to everybody. Yeah.
Look, my final thought is very much similar to yours. I feel like as women, I feel the only way that we are ever going to be able to stick to the values as women and as queens, we like to call ourselves, is if we understand that some people just don't have the values that we might want for our lives. Now, that could look different to everybody, right? But if you know what you want for your life and you're not backing down, if you find people that you may be even physically attracted to, but they don't have it up here, what you want up here in your mind or your life, let it go. Let it go. Do the inner work. Heal yourself on the inside. Get really honest with who you are on the inside and what you want for your life. Because the moment that you're able to be really honest with yourself, you're going to allow yourself to be honest with other people and with men that are attracted to you, what kind of attention that you're attracting. If you're honest with yourself, the incorrect attention is going to dismiss itself automatically, you know. And I'm only going based on my own experience. I can only talk about things that I've experienced. And personally, I think that every woman on this journey, calling herself a queen, we have to be able to do the inner healing. And if we haven't done inner healing, you're never going to be able to really sit with that crown and enjoy it to its fullest. So I hope that this made sense to everybody, and I hope that it connected with somebody. I hope it helped somebody. And my final thought is Milton Spence III. Thank you so much. Thank you. By the grace of God, you have given me the opportunity to have a platform where we can converse and talk about things that are important, you know, things that are important for for us as men and women. And I think that a lot of people need to hear it. So thank you.
Yes, yes. No, the thanks goes to you, and I want to send a shout out to mom and dad. I know you said they would be extremely happy to see you here. So shout out to mom and
Yes,
dad,
my
man.
brother in Western Australia and all my family in Western Australia. Yes, they're
Yeah,
all looking forward to the conversation. I
good,
love
good.
them all. Wait to
Yeah,
share it with them. Yeah.
yeah. So shout out to y'all, mom and dad. Thanks for raising a good daughter. She's on her way. She's gonna do some great things, and we're gonna step into this purpose, and we're gonna help in whatever way that I can, in order to help, towards your purpose or whatever the case may be. Thank you so much for allowing a total stranger to reach out to you and say, hey, have you ever thought about this? And coming on the show, I mean, thank you. You've taken time. You're on vacation right now. You're chilling, but I appreciate it. God bless you, and most of all, God keep you. And yeah, I'm just grateful. So I appreciate you.
Likewise.
Yeah, yeah. So, look, man, we're gonna sign off here. It will, every handle that she has, I'm gonna make sure it's gonna be in the description on the video, so you guys can get in tune with her, get in touch. Remember, she is Muneeba, love Ravat, the love poet, right? So, guys, and relationship coach. So, guys, look, if you need anything from her, if you want to talk to her on a more personal level, please reach out. Do not be shy. Don't let anything stop you. There's certain things in your life that you have to take a jump on, have to take a leap of faith and a risk on. Don't be afraid to reach out. Get at her and let her know. Say, look, hey, I like some of the things you were saying. Could you please help me in this area, that area? And I'm sure, I know for a fact, considering how receptive she's been to me, that she will help you. Okay, cool. All right.
You.
So let's go ahead and sign off. Peace, love, and chicken grease.